Ooh, okay, rock. We are hot. I want to say good afternoon to everybody. And I think we're in 4 different countries right now. Let's do this. Let's start with our most recent new friend, because we got something we really got to dig into. But let's go with the most recent addition to the team, because some of you know, or some of you don't. You may have seen her here and there. Maria, say hello. Tell them who you are and what you do.
Hi there to everyone. I'm Maria Brew from Brew and Associates, Immigration Services in the Dominican Republic. We have a law firm here that we service foreigners looking to relocate, looking to invest. And I met Yusef a couple of weeks ago, but it feels like we know each other forever. I would only move everything around last minute for Yusef.
Oh wow!
and Russell, because Russell's my boy. But so yeah. So hi to you all, and I'm very happy to be here.
And for those of you who haven't seen it, I want everybody to take a quick look. You know, we have a video where she and I sat down and talked about, she does there what I do here. People who decide, hey, I want to move to the Dominican Republic, she does all that stuff. I'm not going to pretend to say her business is exactly the same as mine, but she's a trusted name. You know, and I used to be a big advocate of come to Brazil. Now I'm a big advocate of wherever you are in the United States, you should leave and you should go someplace where it's better. I want to move to the Dominican Republic. She does. Hold on. Got a background noise.
Sorry.
Okay. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that in the comment section so that everybody can get a chance to check her out. She gets my personal seal of approval. And speaking of people with my personal seal of approval, Kenna.
Hi, I'm Keena. Yusef refuses to call me Keena. It's Keena Williams. I am a former aerospace engineer. Currently, I have a travel consulting and travel planning company, Keena L. Williams, LLC. I was in California. I'm currently living in South Africa.
Very nice.
Now, here's the thing. I remember conversation we had when you were like, "Why? I don't know if I can leave the United States. I don't know if I got enough. Just I don't know if I have enough money and the time, and you know, and what if I?" And I was like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? You got the money, you got the education, job will be there for you." And I like, you know how some birds kind of fly off the edge. I had to like kick her in the back a couple times. Get her over there. She was digging and clawing at this. Yeah. And now she's like, "Yay, leave this international life." We actually did a conversation about her passport collection she's got going over there.
So she went from being afraid to being a pro. That's nice.
Yeah,
that's good.
She's an amazing person. She's one of those people that when oh, by the way, this is her website. If you ever hear her name, it will never be in a negative connotation. She's one of the few people when they say her name, people start smiling. I miss Fiji. She's going to Fiji.
You know, I'm looking at residency in Fiji, by the way, since you mentioned it. I was looking at it today. That's my next one.
Yo, your tax man is just going to be nuts.
And I was talking to her today.
Hey, brother Sid Owsley. He and I've got some things cooking. Pretty soon you'll hear some big things from me and Sid. And actually, we'll probably be speaking in Portuguese together. Infromation always supporting the team. Good, what's good, y'all? Domain. Let's learn Spanish. You know what? There are people who, before you say a word.
Yes.
Before you say a word, there are people who say, like me, who say, how could someone who wasn't born a native speaker get good enough to not only be fluent, but be a qualified teacher? There's somebody listening to this right now who speaks Spanish. Give it to them in Spanish, who you are, where you're from, why they need to contact you to learn fluent Spanish.
Ok, bien hecho. Yo me llamo Domain, soy de los Estados Unidos originalmente. Como les dijo, a Yusef no soy un hablante o hablante nativo. Y yo aprendí español por mi parte. La experiencia que yo tengo es una experiencia que quiero compartir con ustedes si quieren aprender. Y yo sé los pasos que necesita hacer para aprender español.
¿Cómo? Él habla muy bien. He
Gracias,
speaks very
gracias.
well.
He's that
He's
exception.
good. He's good. He's good.
The rule, and what he does.
Jermaine, what country are you in? Because someone tells me you need to come to the DR, sweetie.
Okay, right now I'm in Colombia.
I'm trying to get you out of Colombia and bring you to the DR. How's that?
Okay, listen, let me tell you, when I first started, I was in DR, but then I came to Colombia. So more than likely, I'll be coming back to DR because I still have a little bit of DR flavor. It's calling me.
I
It's
see
calling
that.
me. They call my name. Tú lo sabes.
Yo me di cuenta, mi amor. Yo me di cuenta.
Listo. Vale.
I picked up on that Caribbean flavor. Like, what is he doing in Colombia? We need to bring him down here.
Oh, you can hear his accent was different.
Huh?
You say?
His accent was different. It's like in Brazil, when I talk to someone who's not from Sao Paulo, there are certain accents that have different associations. And when you hear people and you start to get to the point, and by the way, I'm not fluent in Portuguese. I don't want to pass myself off as fluent, but what I can tell you is you do get to the point sometimes where when you hear someone speak, you can hear what region they're from and say, wait a minute, you're from here, not there.
Absolutely.
So let's do this. Let me show his that's his YouTube. Let's learn Spanish TV. Everybody, it's a tragedy that he only has 541. Can we get him to five? What's an ambitious number? Can the people watching here please get him to 600? I mean, I got a lot of subscribers, and I don't send you to anybody who's nonsense or bullshit. So I tell you to do for him what I would say to do for everybody. I want you to subscribe. Try it for a month. If you don't, that's fine. If you don't like what he's got going, that's cool. But give it a chance. And everybody needs to be bilingual in something. I prefer Portuguese. If he can help you get there with Spanish, great. Sister Shar Winter, and I had a great conversation the other day. And we ended up on her Instagram live page, and I showed her how to change it to go from Instagram to
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Looks like we lost the host.
Oh, he'll be back.
Yeah.
Well, in the meantime, let's just say hi to the live chats. I had this happen the other day with Russell, and I started playing host.
I kicked my own channel. Like, I kicked myself off my own channel.
Don't feel bad, honey. The same thing happened to Russell. And so I didn't realize what was happening. And the live chats were telling me, Maria, you're still on. So I just started reading questions off the chat and answering them until Russell came back.
Brother Nathan, he and I are two of the busiest men in the world. Every day we send each other a message and say, hey, let's talk. And then something goes crazy in his world and he's got to save one of his clients, or something goes crazy in my world and I've got to save one of my clients. He said I vanished back to the source. I don't know if you know Sister Ada, but she's picked up her Portuguese quite well. I don't know if she speaks Spanish, but if not, you two need to get together. And
Ada, yeah.
Yeah. And oh, you do? Oh, cool.
I'm good friends with her brother David.
Craig has $1 million voice. He comes on as a guest, but refuses to start his own YouTube page. Come on, people. So check this out. I'm going to show everybody what brought us together because it was something that I want to be clear. I'm not here to make fun of. I am not here to trash talk. I'm just going to use this guy as an example. Our job is not here to to beat somebody up online. Y'all know that's not what I'm all about. But I want to show everybody something, and I want everybody not to. Olinda didn't even get a chance to say hello. I'm sorry. I just let you in at the last minute, and Olinda, tell her. Most of y'all know Olinda. Tell her who you are.
Hello, good afternoon from the hot sauna of South Florida. I was living in Brazil for about 2 years. I've been back, and when everything popped off with COVID and the global shutdown, I guess you can call it, I've been stuck here in South Florida for almost a year now, which is far too long. But as soon as those borders open back up, we're heading south.
How's the family? How's the kids?
Everyone's good. I'm sure they'll pop in eventually. But they're
Listen,
good.
Unless otherwise noted, I try to run a family-friendly operation. I have friends that are like, oh, I can't come on because I got the kids. Bring them. I don't care. It doesn't bother me one way or the other. Daniel has kids literally hanging off his face sometimes when he comes in. But you know what? It's all okay. It's okay. So check this out. I'm going to show you a comment that I got on one of my chats about living internationally. Okay. And Kim, you know, there's a space here for you if you want to come up and say hello.
Yes, Kimberly, come and join us.
Yeah, Kimberly West is a welcome voice. I'm going to show you this comment. I'm going to show everybody watching this comment because some of you have seen it. There's somebody by the name of Allman, and he said, running to other countries as temporary as your visa. If that country is overthrown or rebellion occurs, you'll be crying to get back into America, spelled with 3 Ks. Look at what happened during COVID-19. Now, COVID-19 is still happening, and this may have been a message he left a while ago before he thought it was going to go. That, you know, oh, wait, hold on. And she said, okay, now she said, thanks, send me the link. I think I emailed it to you by default anyway. I knew you were going to come, so I emailed it to you. Check your email. If it's not there, it's in the spam. But I knew you was going to get tempted, so I just sent it to you a little while ago.
By the way, it went into my spam, just to let you know. That may be what happened.
You got to save me as a contact so it doesn't go to your spam.
I did. Okay. I'm not technological. It could have been me.
No, it wasn't you because it happened to me.
Thank you, Kenna.
So I'm going to send her a message saying, what's your email address? Let's see. All right. Now, if we look back, he said, look at what happened during COVID-19. If that country is overthrown or rebellion occurs, you'll be crying to get back in America. Look at what and running to other countries as temporary as your visa. The first word that he used was running. That's where now she found it. There you go. So where was it? How come we can't see you? Go put the light in front of your face so you don't look like you're in witness protection.
What was that?
The shadow. You're in the shadow like witness protection. Put the light in front of your face, not behind your head.
Okay, the light is coming from the windows. I'm gonna have to switch to the other side of the sofa.
So
keep going.
BK from the Rockies said to make sure you like, share, and subscribe. This is critically important. And for everybody who's on right now, I'm gonna tag you on Facebook. Share this. This is how I get to meet other good people. This is how I get to meet other awesome folks like y'all. Okay? So after we do this, I'm going to tag you on Facebook and I want you to share it. Okay? So this is what was said, and this was what brought this conversation about. When he said running to other countries is as temporary as your visa. Now, here's the thing. I get comments like that a lot, and all of us are in different countries. And let me back up. Kimberly, do you want to say hello and tell them who you are and why you're awesome real quick?
Hi, my name is Kimberly West. I am currently living in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. And up until 2-3 weeks ago, I was actually in the United States because I weathered COVID out with my husband in Atlanta, but I couldn't take it anymore. Atlanta, that is. and I had to come back down here to Playa.
Which website should I show them to come in to contact you?
Globalgastronome.com.
We're going to show everybody yours as well, because I want to make sure that I spread the goodies. For people who don't know, Kim is a chef, and she's amazing, and we will sit up and talk about food porn all night.
Oh, yes. And that's where we're supposed to be right now, but it got canceled. Lobster Fest 2020. COVID messed up a lot of travel for folks.
Yeah.
But you know, you've done a lot of stuff. You've done a lot of stuff. You've got your blog. My favorite recipe, meat pie. You know, I tell everybody who's like me, who really likes meat, y'all need to come to Brazil.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's the only place I've ever lived where it's totally acceptable to have meat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and nobody looks at you funny.
Another thing that we do, they'll have chilaquiles for breakfast and piled high with beef. So, yeah.
So here we are talking about that comment about, well, there are three different places. He talks about running away from America is as temporary as your visa. Let's take it one sentence at a time. His first sentence, and I'm gonna lead off, but then I want each one of you to chime in on where you take this, because he said running to other countries is as temporary as your visa. Now, the first place I want to go with this is the concept of running from or running to. I think both take a lot of courage, because he's working on the assumption that where we were physically or mentally is better than where we're going. And for a lot of people, particularly folks like us who come from places where the language we speak, the color of our skin, the accent we have, and going to someplace else and running from where we are might have been the same decision. Okay, she said there was an echo. Somebody's echoing. It's not on my side. I don't know. But okay, it looks like it's gone away, I think. So how about Land? Why don't you tell me if there's more of an echo? I don't know who it is. Or if you guys want to mute until you're talking, and we'll see who's echoing. So
if you're watching the Facebook feed and have StreamYard up at the same time, it's going to echo.
Oh, yeah. If you're watching on StreamYard and you have the feed up on the YouTube or Facebook, you've got to kill the YouTube or the Facebook and only watch us here. Okay? So when he said, running to another country, first, I think running is not always a bad thing. This is not a judgment of character if you left somewhere to go someplace else. But the second important thing is it's temporary as your visa. Well, he's right. It is only temporary as your visa, but to people who are uninitiated into what it's like to be a global citizen, visas can last months, years, decades. Visas can be temporary. I'm in Brazil.
It's breaking up a little.
Oh, so let's do this. Can we all mute until you're talking?
Let's see. Yeah, I think I can. Okay, me.
Yeah. And what we'll do then is we'll just say that it's not a big deal to say that it may be the best thing for you physically and mentally to run to one place from someplace else. And he said it's temporary as your visa. People who don't know that travel is more than a 2-week visa to go to a place to swim in the water and go home. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not judgmental. The people that want to just go to a place for a week or two and have fun, go for it. I'm happy for you. But what we can't have is so many people believing that somehow magically the entire world treats its visa residents the way America does, because that's a very different issue. But that's a different soapbox. Domain, I want you to take the microphone first.
Okay. All right. So the first sentence we would deal with. First of all, you have to think about this. It's a difference between traveling somewhere and living in a foreign country. Obviously, that statement was written from a person who hasn't lived in a foreign country as a civilian. Maybe military, it's a different world. But as a civilian, you get the perspective and you get the experience in life that you wouldn't even begin to make a statement like that. So, you know, a visa is going to last as long as you apply and get and want it to. So everything in this world is temporary. You live once, you do what you want to do.
Sister Maria.
There we are. Okay. You know, there was a show, a comment like this was made in a show that we were doing with TaylorMade. And an interesting comment was made, which I agree with 100% and I think applies here. It is not up for discussion or opinion what makes other people comfortable, what makes other people feel safe and good. That is not up for discussion. As an individual, each person has a right to feel a certain way about where they live. If they're no longer comfortable with what is happening, with what they're seeing, they are within their right to seek other options. And that's not considered running away. It's like you living in a house or in a neighborhood that you don't like and you want to go somewhere else where you feel better. You look around, search your options, and settle somewhere else. Being free, folks, is about having freedom of choice and respecting people's, you know, right to choose where to live, to reside, to set up camp, to invest. That's fundamental. As human beings, we have to respect that. And I don't consider it running. It's your choice. It's whatever makes you feel comfortable. Now, he's talking about running back to America. I got to tell you something. A large number of my clients have been talking about leaving America, have been talking about what is to come since 2014, folks. Way before I ever thought that I would see what I'm seeing now. These people took the time, they started to get everything ready. They started to, you know, reallocate assets to the DR, getting their residency, buying properties here, investing since 2014. They're still here.
What did they see, though?
And I want to tell you something. This morning, because I became friends with one of them, really good friends. They're an older couple. I was talking to them this morning and he was like, I don't know what's going on over there, but I'm having coffee, watching my $1 million view, because in the DR, you can get in a spectacular view for like very reasonable amount of money and build whatever you want on it. So they chose to live away from, you know, the touristy areas, and they went to a cliff town, and he was like, I don't know what's going on over there, but I'm at peace. And this is what I've always wanted. And, you know, he was talking about what he sees coming. And, you know, my clients have schooled me, folks. I'm not embarrassed to say it. I've learned a lot from my clients. They're seasoned investors. They are experienced people. A good number of them are of age and we're not just talking about one race, all. I'm talking about, you know, white, black, you know, of European descent, but they're Americans because they were born in the US and their families came over, and all of them have felt the same way. And I'm telling you, I have a large, I was mentioning this on, I think it was with you, Yusef. About 5 years ago, the paradigm of my firm changed because all of the people coming wanted permanent residency and with citizenship with a view. Permanent citizenship permanent residency with citizenship as a view. They came to me asking for this. So no, residing in another country is not the equivalent of a visa. You can relocate and have permanency. So, I mean, I respect everyone's opinion, but I disagree with it completely.
Wow. Thanks to the people in the comments, by the way. Suzette, who comes by and has some great conversations with us, she wanted to say big up to my expat sister. And Charles Travel said he has friends who've gotten off many medications by moving to Colombia. And the reason he said that is we have a comment here said my blood pressure is down more than 9 points. It saved my life to travel. So let's go back to the primary conceit again. Sister Kimberly West, you know, when he says running is as temporary as your visa, how do you take that?
Well, first of all things are temporary. Life is temporary, and you can't spend your life worrying about what other people think. What do they say? What other people think about you is none of your business. Yeah. Temporary. That's with anything. I mean, we've got a situation in which Trump has at different times, you know, called into question as to whether or not he could deport natural-born American citizens, not people who had immigrated to America, but people who were born there. So it's all temporary. But the thing is that we're all law-abiding. We live within the laws and the confines and the constraints of the countries that we've chosen to immigrate to. So for the most part, we're good. If there is a coup or if something happens, then we will have to reevaluate that at that time. But we are doing what we feel is necessary in our lives to make ourselves happy. And I like the comment from the person who said that their blood pressure went down 9 points. I can definitely tell you that not being in the United States has improved my health immeasurably. You know, my parents even look at me and they're like, well, you look so different. Things are very different with you. Absolutely, things are very different. You know, diet is better. I don't have the microaggressions and stress of being a Black woman working in technology for over 20 years. And I know, Kina, you can definitely relate to that statement. You know, there's a lot that we go through in the US, and we've just chosen not to go through it.
You know, speaking of comments, I want to say hello to an amazing person, Domina Antoinette. She said, the America comment sounds like, why are you running away? Sure, there's racism here, but it's better to be oppressed in the US than elsewhere without an understanding of what the world is like outside the US. That's gospel right there.
I got a question though. Why is it that only Black Americans get asked these questions? Out of the entire diaspora, we are the ones that are the least likely right now, the least likely to either travel abroad and that's changing, or even move abroad. But when you see Blacks from Jamaica, when you see Blacks from England, when you see Blacks from anywhere else in the world, they don't get asked these kinds of questions.
Well, let me do two things real quick. One, I want to say specifically to Domina Antoinette, my door is open to you anytime. Domina Antoinette is a person who has an extraordinary life experience viewed through a lens that most of us will never have, who's capable of writing countless reams of prose and intrigue and deep thought. And I just want you to know, no matter how many miles apart we are, my door is always open to you, both literally as far as a phone call or figuratively here on my platform. I would love to hear your voice here. Now, what you were saying is why us? But let's go through Olinda and Kenna real quick. They can either take what you said or they can go back to that first sentence if they feel like it's not been exhausted.
I'll hop on. And I think I took more issue with the second part of the sentence. Can you put it back up there again?
Sure.
So we have the words. I don't want to misquote anyone. Put words in. Okay, if that country is overthrown or rebellion occurs, you'll be trying to get back in America. Look at what happened during COVID-19. And I think, so for me, and maybe because of the way that I've lived my life, is that I don't feel like there has to be one or the other. And for so many people, when we talk about relocating outside of the United States, they speak as if it's an end all be all. Once you move, you can't come back. And to me, it's like I don't know how to describe it, but in life, you kind of have to leverage what you have. And there are a lot of benefits and privileges to being a U.S. citizen. So for me, leaving the United States doesn't mean I'm giving up U.S. citizenship, and it doesn't mean I can't come back anytime I dang well feel, So if it works for me and my family to be able to benefit from living in the United States and maintaining resources or investments or whatever in the United States and having a home somewhere else, and having permanent residency and now U.S. citizenship in another country, that's fine too. So I think we kind of have to step away from this idea that, oh, if you leave, you can't go back, or if you leave, you have to stay where you are. You can't have any connection to the United States. It's kind of like a defeatist way of thinking about it.
Infromation said the guy is ignoring that human nature is to survive, which seems pretty hard to do in a good way in the United States, not for everyone, but especially for Black people, and it will take decades for it to change. Well, I would go with centuries I think you get it. You know, and even Craig went so far as to use a key phrase. The U.S. is a pressure cooker of fear and paranoia that you don't notice until you leave the U.S. You need to put that on a t-shirt. The U.S. is a pressure cooker of fear and paranoia that you don't notice until you leave. I've had people come and visit me in many countries I've lived in, and those that stay for more than a week, at a certain point they go, there's something different. And what do you mean? And they would always say suddenly they were walking into, let's say we're at the mall shopping for souvenirs, and they don't look at everybody like it might be some person who pulls out a gun and starts murdering people, which could happen in the United States. They don't walk down the street. The cop that looks at them funny in the mall looks at them funny because they have this obvious gringo look, but they don't think the cop is going to pistol whip them into oblivion and then walk away and go home. And they're like, when you realize that you don't have that, it's like, it's weird because you start focusing on other things like staying in shape, finding the love of your life someplace else in the world, getting your that's a big one. There's a reason so many Black Americans go get their businesses started overseas, because when all you have to worry about is being a good businessman, you'd be amazed at what. Kenna, saving the best for last.
Well, I don't know about that, but hello to everybody on the panel. I just wanted to address one part of the comment where the person says running to other countries is as temporary as your visa. I guess that's a guess, because most of us are not running. You know, I'm not personally running from anything. You know, if I wanted to be in America, I mean, I will be there. The thing is, we have choices. We have opportunities, and perhaps this is a person that doesn't realize the choices that can be his, just like it is mine, yours, and everybody else on this panel, and some of the people in the chat that I see there. So I think it's one of those things where this person is speaking, they're coming from a place where they are uneducated about the opportunities that are available. So I'm more of the fact that this is not running. I mean, personally, I had a really good job as an engineer, made a lot of money. Similar to what Kim was saying, I just got tired. You know, I got tired of doing the rat race or whatever. I wasn't leaving because of, you know, a lot of people now are leaving because of police brutality, things of that nature. I just left because I was tired. You know, I was tired of, you know, doing the 9 to 5 and not receiving what you think that you should receive. So therefore you start creating your own, whether you start your own business or stack up whatever money that you've saved and go somewhere else to live for a very lower cost and give yourself a higher level of living. So it's not about running, you know, it's not about running. And as far as the talk about the temporary as your visa, like you mentioned earlier in this discussion, most of us are not on these little 90-day visas. Some of us are on visas that are years. Some places, permanent residency. I was reading something on Facebook where someone was saying, oh, it's hard to get permanent residency in country XYZ. And I'm thinking, you haven't looked at the application. If you looked at these applications, you realize they're not as hard as you think they are. Now, I admit some of them require you need to have some money. That's how the world works. You need some money. So, but it's not as difficult in some places as you may think. So I think this person is coming from a place of, they're just not educated. They just don't know. They don't know any better.
Wow.
You know, I wanted to mention something. You know, they're talking about coups and governments getting overthrown. Have you not seen the marches, countrywide, state to state? Have you not seen it? I think you need to tune into the news, honey, because if you want to talk about public unrest, that is a prelude to what is coming. And I have to tell you, even people who were sitting on the fence before and had not decided, once they saw that, once they saw how people are tired of it and they're uprising, I mean, nationwide, that decided them. I mean, if you're a person who has family, kids, grandkids, you have to think about their safety and what's best for them. And that is another thing that drives a lot of my clients to come to, to the DR. The fact that they want to have their kids under the umbrella of citizenship because they're entitled to it once the parents have it. So, it's, you have to, it's like Kenna says, you just have to educate yourself. And if you don't know what life in other countries is like, well, that's what these panels are for. Look at all the countries represented here. And we're all expats doing it.
We're in different countries.
You have panels like this you can visit. I mean, go get your visa visit and find out whether you want to be a resident. But, to just make a comment like that with no knowledge and basing it on no real foundation, it discourages people who, are not really aware or don't have a firm decision. So I would not pay any mind to it. Not because I think that person is wrong, but because I think that each person has a right to decide what's best for them and shouldn't be criticized for it. I don't like the term running away. I like the term choosing what is best for you. That's a better way to say it. I just think it's a dogmatic statement. And it just struck me when you sent it,
Well, here's the thing. That part about what you said, running about when governments are overthrown, the awkward part about being a passive backyard student of history, I am not a historian, okay? But I want to be clear. I don't know of any nation that prospered forever. The trick is you want to be in a nation at the peak of its prosperity and then die the day before it goes down.
Yeah.
America, the people who are alive right now, the people who are alive right now are, we may be witnessing during our lifetime the fall of American hegemony. Let me back up. Let me do this just for everybody to be able to. It's a political, economic, or military predominance or control of one state over others. That's hegemony. Being the biggest dog in the yard. There were different countries in Africa where they were the biggest dog in the yard for a period of history. There are periods of history where the Chinese were. There are periods of history where the Japanese were. There is a period in history where the South Americans were. Now there's a period in history where the Northern Americans are. There is going to be a next. It's just terrifying to live through that transition. And Coach Joey Jones said, those people dogging us travelers and expats are losers and live in fear, ! I should have stayed in Brazil instead of coming back, Michael Legend. I could have done it. Had no idea it was going to be bad. I think I tried to tell you to stay. If I'm not mistaken, we had that conversation because I don't know anybody who left any country, not just Brazil. I don't know anybody who left and has said they're glad to be in America as opposed to the other nation they were living in.
You know what? That's a really good point because here in South Africa, we've had I have some friends that came here in March as tourists, and they are still here. And what the South African government has done is basically anyone that was here on a tourist visa, which is 90 days, they've actually extended it out. So these people are like, well, I'm not in a rush to go home. And the weird thing is we have had repatriation flights back to the United States, but my friends, they're not getting on it. They're not getting on it because they're like, why would I go back in the middle of this pandemic taking place? I have one person that's going back to New York. They're going to these larger cities that are open, more exposed. So they're not going. So they're stuck here. We've been on, this is day, I think 85 or 86 of a lockdown here, and they feel safer here with the way this country is handling COVID-19 to the point where even though they're offering repatriation flights, no one I know is getting on them.
You said something. You said something just now, and the conversation I was having with this client that became a friend, what part of what we were talking about is that there's this rat race for who's going to be the next president. And I was like, they're running the wrong direction. I would not want to be in the Oval Office when all of that goes down. I would just let whoever wants to be president take it right now, because it's like what you said. There's a change coming. So would I want to be the president when it hits the fan? You know what I'm saying? It's so illogical, but he says ego blinds people. They can't see what's in front of them. They cannot see it. They can't see it. And
Coach Joey Jones said the only thing that helped him is that the currency changed and he can get more bang for his dollar, because his plan is to move out here full term. And when I talked to Joey, I thought he was going to move to Salvador with the music, or come down here with me and we're going to hang out in Sao Paulo and do businesses, or go to Rio and party it up. Nope. He found a country area up in the north of Brazil. He bought a farm. He bought some cattle, all that city living. And now I got a place to go on holiday. I'm going to come up there and take pictures on a farm. I'm going to see what a real boy looks like. It's going to be awesome. That's the cricket set. I'm actually looking forward to it. I know it's going to be fun up there too. But you know what? Me and Coach Joe, we're going to sit out on the porch one day, drinking some Brazilian coffee, and let's take a picture to everybody.
Yusef, I'm coming over. You think I'm playing around? I'm coming over.
But that's we'll have to have a different conversation on the elections. The trick is this. I don't know that. No, we're gonna save that for the political. We got to save that for the political one. There you go. Y'all heard him say. He said y'all all invited. So don't be surprised when you get that call. Hey, I'm about to buy my ticket. What time should I show up?
Exactly. And from where most of us are, it's a jump.
Yeah. But that's the thing. When you have people who make statements like that, they have been fully indoctrinated in the belief that anything outside of America is worse. But when you leave, this is what I tell people. If you survived in the United States of America, especially if you're not white, if you are Latino, Black, Native American, First People, there's no place harder. There isn't. You've beaten the game. You've already beaten the game on God mode. You can go anyplace else. And that's a very difficult thing for a lot of them to, look at him now. He's stuck back in Atlanta, Georgia. Madness. and that's why I really wanted to get into that. I just really wanted to find out, because here's the thing, when I first saw the comment, I chose not to just blah, blah, blah. I wanted to wait, take some time, think it through, decide how I wanted to handle it. And I always try to bring in people that I know that are clever people to help me figure these things out. Let me see. Be sure I can share this. Thank you. Thank you, Sid. I'm going to tag you as well. Dave. He said he had his first scare walking down the street yesterday, and I thought it was over. And he's in Texas.
Deep in the heart of Karenville.
Heart of Karenville. I don't even know how I feel about that phrase, because it's... Thank you. She said she's proud of me. Thank you. So they go by 3 dots.
But I do want to tell you something, Yusef. It is a good thing. This is why I had something on my schedule for this time slot, and I decided to reschedule it to partake. And it's important that you decided to tackle this comment, because people who are at a point, there are people, I can tell you, because a lot of them contact me, who feel like they need to do something, but they're afraid. I was just talking to someone prior to coming on. They're like, I'm so afraid, I'm so nervous to do it. So if you take comments like this, if comments like this get to these people, it makes them second guess themselves. It makes them feel bad about the choice that they're thinking about making. So bringing this up and showing them, no, that is not a comment you need to take seriously. There's another side to the coin, and you have to go with what feels right to you. You give people the encouragement that they need, because it's hard, guys. It's hard. It's hard to uproot yourself and move to another country. It turns out well. It's turned out well for all of my clients, myself included. But still, it's a difficult choice to make. So reading comments like this could be discouraging. I'm glad you did this. I really am, and thank you for letting me participate.
Well, then, it sounds like my neighbor is trying to do a root canal with a power drill. I live in an apartment building condominium, and the rules say you can't make any noise at all unless it's between, I think, 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. You can have anything that can be heard outside your area. So 9 a.m., anybody who's doing any like installation of the new TV mount, any of that stuff. So wait a minute. They tore up Buckhead and CNN? CNN got torn out?
Oh,
Can somebody enlighten me?
Yes, CNN got ripped to shreds. I was still in Atlanta when it happened.
Well, can you open that up for me? I don't know. I don't know what's happening.
I think it was between the Black Lives Matter protests and then the young man who got shot at Wendy's. Well, it started with the Black Lives Matter protests and protesting George Floyd's murder. And people just took to the streets. And they busted out the windows in CNN. They busted out the windows, and correct me, of the police precincts. They busted out, they just really destroyed a lot of downtown. But the pictures that are floating around, it wasn't all brown folks that were doing the destruction. And then the Wendy's where the young men got shot in the back and then kicked as he was laying on the ground dying, that Wendy's was burnt to the ground. It's over by the university. So they burned that down. And now there is some news circulating that the person who burnt that Wendy's down just may have been the young man who got killed's girlfriend.
But
I gotta go back to Atlanta tomorrow.
But there's something I want to say. Right now, the topic is the racism, which is getting out of hand. But my clients that started getting out since 2014 and before, it was all kinds of other issues with the U.S. I mean, this is why you're always going to see different races acting out, getting out, finding, a plan B. Okay, because even before the racism issue, there were just other things that they were unhappy about with the U.S. The taxation, where the economy was going, their attitude globally, because they tend to be bullies. So they saw this coming. So the racism is just a piece of a very large puzzle of things going wrong with that country. And I tell you, my clients, they vary, in color, all Americans, but they vary, and they all feel something's not right. So there's been a wave of people getting out for a while now. I tell you, the paradigm of my firm changed approximately 5-6 years ago. It all started being about people wanting to come, second citizenship, relocating. You know what I mean?
Before we go too far, I want to make clear for anybody watching, I've had a lot of pushback on this. I tell people all the time, I, without question, am absolutely against rioting. I did Guns, Germs, and Felonies where I talked about it. Rioting will never help the oppressed people. It will not serve you. It feels good, and it is going to eventually come back to get you now or later. I'm even going to put that in the comments. Rioting is a sucker's game because you lose short term or you can lose long term, but you will lose when it comes down to something like rioting. And we can talk about that again.
Maybe in the States, because I was going to say maybe in the States, but in some of these other countries, that's how it gets done. So you may want to put that disclaimer on that.
Let me tell you what happens in the United States.
For you.
Okay, I'm going to give you just an example from who was it? I'll have to find the guy, but in the United States, let's say we're in a riot, and let's just say we break some windows, set a few garbage cans on fires, maybe flip a police car, but you get away with it, and it's no big deal. All someone has to do is prove you were there. There could be a camera somewhere. Well, listen, people snitch on themselves all the time with their cell phones. Once that happens, and the police can identify you or somebody snitches you out because they got caught, you're going to get hit with terrorism charges. Now you're going to get hit with domestic charges. Now you got Homeland Security because they're going to say you're a domestic terrorist. Now you're catching felonies, state for destruction of property, federal because they're going to charge you with terrorism crimes, right? And all you need is for one of those someplace to stick. And we know the government doesn't come after you until they've got a huge number of cases they can pull. Now you can't leave America, especially if you're black or brown. Now, once you got caught involved with all that violent action on the street, that, for the record, only destroys buildings that have, well, here's one theory. A lot of these businesses weren't doing any business anyway, and as somebody who worked in personal insurance, I can tell you their insurance will cover it. They might not even come out ahead. You can't tell me you've hurt the Wendy's Corporation by burning down a Wendy's. It felt good, didn't mean anything. And that cop car you flipped over, just guaranteed now that they're looking for someone to punish. Not necessarily you, but somebody's going to hang for that. If you want to fight your government, you got to start small, and fighting small isn't sexy. Fighting that war of attrition, it's not glamorous. Finding out who your police chief is and saying, do I like him or not? If I like him, I'm going to write letters. I'm going to go online telling everybody I want this man because he's fair and decent. If you don't like him, it means writing letters, going online, using whatever social media voice you have to say, here are all the crimes he's committed. It means finding out who your local coroner is, because people don't understand it's the coroner who can decide whether or not that kid who got shot in the back 3 times committed suicide, but people don't even know who their coroner is. When we say we're angry that these people have no voice because they have no jobs, because they had no education, they don't know who their school commissioners are, who decided when, boys who need things like wrestling and boxing and that gets taken out of. When they see all these home ec skills, when they see things like, what is the class we took when we were children that taught you about government? What was the name of that class?
Civics.
Huh?
Civics.
Civics is not in school anymore. You have kids coming out of high school that can't name 3 branches of government. Find out who the people are responsible for that, and you'll do more damage than setting an entire fleet of cars on fire. But that's not sexy. That's just not. That's not sexy.
And it takes time. I think people are looking for immediate gratification. The things that you're talking about take time. They take forethought. They take planning. They take organization sometimes. And that's not something that we've been all that great at in the United States.
Okay. Dear brother David said, if it were not for rioting, Derek Chauvin would not be arrested at all. There would be no Juneteenth federal holiday, nothing. Let's not even talk about that. That's a different world. We're talking about the Juneteenth, the holiday, when Juneteenth started. But let's just look at Derek Chauvin. Who wants to fill the team in on Derek Chauvin? Nobody knows who he is?
Oh, we know who he is.
Well, tell them I got a drill in my ear. I want to mute myself.
Derek Chauvin was the police officer who was kneeling on George Floyd's neck and basically killed him.
Murdered him.
Now,
murdered.
Yes, he was murdered.
Yeah. And so that's the thing. Derek Chauvin wasn't the first cop to murder an innocent black person. I won't even use the word innocent. He was not the first policeman to murder a person who didn't deserve to die. It didn't start with Derek Chauvin. Again, all the stuff that I'm talking about takes a long time, and it's not sexy, and it's not cute, and it's not fast. But you could get 10 Derek Chauvins off the street with one good campaign against your local police force. And taking that time in between riots, why don't you investigate who your deputy commissioner is, who your lead police officers are? Why don't you start filing Freedom of Information Act asking, how come I can't get information on which police officer has been reprimanded or disciplined for violence? Start asking those questions. Those are the people they're afraid of. One man with a pen will terrorize an entire cop force. There are some of the greatest agitators who've never been to a riot and do everything off of pencil or paper and the internet. But again, I want to. What did Sister Ada say? She said, that doesn't matter to some of these youngsters who think they're not going to live long regardless. Some people don't value their life or have nothing to look forward to. Ugh.
That's very true in America. You know, what is it, Generation Z that they're talking about? And I have nieces and nephews that are Generation Z. They really, a lot of that generation does not feel that they're going to live very long.
That's a hard one. That's a hard one.
It's frightening.
No one is listening to nonviolent voting and letter writing. These are people fed up and tired of the bullshit. I disagree. A lot of people are listening to it, the people in charge. But if voting didn't matter, why would they spend so much money on it?
Why would they been trying to redline us out of voting districts and closing polling places where, who is it? McConnell is up for re-election, and they cut in more than in half the number of polling places available to the community. And guess where most of those closed polling places were?
Black neighborhoods.
Precisely.
Exactly. But again, there are a lot of people who want to convince you that your vote doesn't matter so they can just not rally. Remember, I wrote a long time ago, Black people are the only ones that don't make people buy their votes. We give that stuff up. We just whore out our votes to anybody who promises something. Every other group says, what can you give me? You want my vote? I want some schools. I want some money. Give me something. Us, it's just kind of,
One of your
I think a lot of it. Oh, go ahead. I think a lot of it has to do with the concept of democracy in general. It's majority rule, and I think we've kind of been taught, and maybe we teach ourselves, that as a minority group, we'll never have the majority. Our opinions, our issues will never be the broad opinions and issues of the United States, and so that's why I think many people feel like their votes don't matter. We're talking about rebellion and rioting and saying, oh, these things don't affect any change. I think if you are the minority and you're a small percentage of the population that's rioting, of course it doesn't affect change. When you see a coup, it's the masses and the military, and it's usually a larger effort. If it's just a certain small percentage of the population, and Blacks are probably 13 to 15% of the U.S. population,
more or less.
What change are you really going to affect?
There's something I want to address real quick. There is a quote that should be on the screen. It said, "A riot is the language of the unheard." And by the way, that speech is called "The Other America," and I'm going to put it here. The Other America. MLK. So here's what we don't. Let me see. There we go. Okay. And I put that in the comments for anybody who wants to check it out. And also you can listen to it here. You can put the Other America speech. Now, there are a few quotes, and I love when people, and by the way, Tim, this is not against you. People tend to quote Dr. Martin Luther King through all the quotes that he said, except for the last 3 years. Why is it that the last 3 years go ignored? Does anybody have any idea why? No?
I think it's because it had to do with economics.
Not just that. He started to recant most of the things that he believed. The last 3 years of his life, he became anti-integration. He began to encourage Black Americans to not go along with things like drafts, things like that. He became the person that didn't believe in the cause anymore. And nobody quotes him.
He became anti-integration. He became
Somebody's echoing me. Okay. True, in France they don't play. The riot at the last provocation. Benjamin Franklin wrote, "It is the first responsibility of every citizen to question authority. So before we agree to serve in the military, before we voice support for a president or other government official, we must be willing to dissent. And I believe this can take care of questioning authority." Yeah. Yeah. Uh-oh. Hold on a second. Let me go back up. Alpha Trucker, no reparations, no vote. I like that phrase. When you have nothing to lose, when the game is already rigged, sure, it's a sucker's game, but in a game that people won't listen in the first place. Businesses have a larger voice for change than people protesting. For example, big business get burned down, they will turn to the government and be like, change your shit or we'll pull business out. Yes. Yeah. If you can put pressure on a multinational business to turn around to the congressman and say, we're not doing, why do you think so many businesses that in the past didn't really care about anything black are suddenly hiring as many black faces as they can see, wearing dashikis and going out saying, please. We got a specific question for Maria. We can address her at different times. We said, where can I find information on the CD race in the Dominican Republic? You mentioned a $200,000 investment in a DRCD to fast track you to citizenship. Here's what I want you to do: modified product. Maria, will you put your email address in the comment section, and I'm going to put it up there for anybody who wants to contact you direct. Okay. All politics are. And Brother David said, you're saying that living in Brazil, come on, I love you, but we're going to have to debate this so I can show you with love how you're incorrect. No, I'm absolutely correct, because like you said, you're in Texas and I'm in Brazil. I won. I'm not walking down the street afraid to say something to somebody because the cops might blow my skull open. We can discuss it, but the proof of the pudding is in the eating. But you're welcome anytime. Like you said, you're in Texas and I'm in Brazil. Somebody wanted to echo my statements? Oh, I wish we were just as concerned about rioting as we were concerned by people dying. Wow. And you know what? Charles Travel said something important. There's a huge difference between protesting and rioters. Fair shake, fair shake. That's very true.
Absolutely.
A lot of people hit the Nike store in New York will get caught because they didn't wear a mask and want to video every damn thing on top of the surveillance cameras. We don't need surveillance cameras anymore. People, listen, I know a woman who works for a multinational corporation. They came in their office one night. The office was a wreck, but it wasn't like professional wrecked. It was wrecked like a bunch of idiots did it. So the cop comes in and they're investigating what's valuable missing. I mean, what could they steal? Some printers from an office? Or a computer? The cop said, hold on a minute. He took out his phone and just started randomly Googling phrases. The people who wrecked their office and came in uploaded the video under fake names and got themselves caught.
Wait a minute, I've got another one for you. In one of the riots, I believe it was the one in one of the ones in Minneapolis, one of the police cars was spray painted and burned, basically a Molotov cocktail. And they were able to track the person that threw the incendiary device in her Etsy t-shirt. And she was fully masked.
What type of t-shirt?
She had purchased a custom-made t-shirt on Etsy, and that's how the police were able to track her down.
Got to be more careful.
Truly.
Whoa, Dr. Claude Anderson has been telling Black folks for decades the step-by-step plan to gain more power the right way. And by power, he means money. We haven't listened. There is only one freedom, and that is economic freedom. You know, there is only one freedom, that is economic freedom. Whew. You know, today got kind of heavy, and I knew it was going to be, but I'm glad that I had you folks to share this time with. I know we're all busy people with things to do. Let's go in reverse order. Kenna, are you okay over there?
I moved to the couch. Listen, it's 9:30 p.m. over here. You know, I'm getting more comfortable.
Okay. Here's the thing. Kenna, do you want to help us wrapping up a few different things as we bring this to a close? We're going to go in reverse order this time.
Yeah, I'll just say a couple of things about, you know, I know what the purpose of this particular call was for today. Is for anyone, if you have anybody that's out there that's watching this or listening to this, please do your research on moving overseas. If you want to go somewhere, don't just believe little silly, stupid nonsense comments that people write. Go and look up these processes. Go look up these visas. Go look up permanent residency. Go look up what it takes to have citizenship. You can find out that what you want could be as simple as $36 as it was for me. So go and look up these things. It's not as difficult as you make it. And if the location that you really want is too difficult, you got 193 other places to look at. So look at other places. So that's all I really wanted to say.
Thank you. Olinda.
I agree. I agree with most of what was said. I just like to iterate my personal view is that going doesn't mean you have to go and forget about the United States. A lot of people kind of have that idea, but I believe you can do both, have the best of both worlds, live your best life, however, whatever form that comes in. I still own property in the United States. I've reaped the benefits, you know, of whatever I can from the United States and still live my best life overseas. And I don't like the idea that, like, oh, when people say, oh, if you're leaving, you know, like you have to stay gone or, you know, but that's just my point of view.
Thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us. And Kimberly.
At the end of the day, we all have options, and you are more than welcome to exercise your option to either stay in the United States or not in the United States, or do a hybrid version of either one. I know personally, whenever I have to go back to the United States, there is a certain sense of tension that I feel. And everyone that I know, particularly that lives here, has voiced that as well. There is life outside the United States, and that's something that we have to recognize. There's a whole big world that operates outside of the United States, and it's kind of fun to go and see how that world operates and get to understand and know other cultures. So exercise your options, make sure you do your research, because moving abroad is not something to be taken lightly. None of us took it lightly. We did our research. We weighed the pros and cons. You know, you're leaving family to a certain extent. Some of us brought our families with us. So it is a major undertaking, but it's doable. And that's where I will end that. I'll stay off the political stuff.
So just hang on. First, Kenna, Ada wants to know your IG or your Facebook. How can people find you?
On Instagram, it's just me, Kenna, and that's just me, Kenna, on Instagram. You can reach me there.
Okay. Okay. And we got somebody saying Grenada, here I come. There you go. Sister Maria.
Well, I'm going to make echo of the words that have been already said. You know, you can live whatever life you want. I think that's a great thing. Having choices is a blessing in life. Okay. So instead of focusing on the negativity that's making you look for choices, be excited about the possibilities. You have an entire panel here very happy people that live in different parts of the world. Have fun with it, you know? Look at the possibilities, start to research it, imagine the kind of life that you could have. You could have any life you want, as Olinda said. Create it, have fun with it. You can do whatever you want. And here's a panel full of people who've done it and, you know, who are happy and have succeeded with it. And as you know, the other panelists have pointed out, research is the key. Research is the key because it will show you where it is you belong. Do you want to go to South Africa? Do you want to go to Mexico? Is it the Dominican Republic? That's what it's about, you know. So, you know, just take the time to imagine the possibilities and enjoy the prospect. It doesn't have to be, it is a serious move. As Kimberly pointed out, you are going to uproot yourself and settle somewhere else, but it could be a gratifying experience. Focus on that positive aspect of it, you know, and don't allow comments like what brought us together to dissuade you or discourage you. There is nothing wrong with going to where it feels right, to going to where you feel comfortable and happy and could be the best version of yourself and live your best possible life. So, you know, read it. And as Yusef was getting ready to do, just ignore it. and Kimberly, you're the food. I'm going to your website as soon as we get off. I love, as you can tell, honey, I love food. So
Message me. I got some other stuff for you.
Oh, I will. I was looking at your website right now, but all righty. But anyway, it was a privilege to be with such an extraordinary panel. I admire you all, even though we just met, truly. And if I was quiet, it was because I was learning. I love to learn from people. So it was excellent. Great. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
I can't hear you.
You're muted.
A mute button. I can't hear you.
All right. What I do is I have a list of people that whenever I'm going to do a topic, I message these people and say, hey, do you want to come on? You're on that list. Domain.
Yes. Well, I want to end up by saying human history is started by people migrating, looking for different places to go, looking for better opportunities. Not until recently, in recent times, there's this phenomenon come across as if you feel as though that you don't like to where you are, you need to stay there and tough it out. That's non-logical. That's not even a part of nature or instinct of human history. The United States, which a lot of people love so much, was actually started by people looking for better opportunities in other lands. Now, whoever you are, wherever you want to go, feel free to do it. If you feel as though you want to stay somewhere, then stay. But think about like this. If you feel as though you want to look for better opportunities, great. For someone to say that you shouldn't go somewhere to a better opportunity, it's like if you concentrate on education and you expand and you get resources and you enhance your character, you should stay living in your parents' home and not look for other opportunities.
That's right.
There's no border. There's no border. You live where you want to live.
That's it.
So let me do two things as I wrap up then. There are 2 points that came up in the comments section. One about the healthcare, the work, blah, blah, blah. These are some things that people who knew me knew that I did privately, but over the past short period of time, I've had to incorporate it professionally into my job. Is you can all catch me on LinkedIn, but I've been doing expat relocation services offline just with people who knew me for quite a while. And I do legal permanent resident of Brazil. I guide my clients through every level of relocating to or visiting Brazil. Together with our Brazilian partners, we provide flexible, smooth, and individualized relocation services, including but not limited to planning, timetable, blah, 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 language. Here. These two, visa, residency applications, and national healthcare registration. That's what I do. That's my company. That's what I do. You can catch me on LinkedIn if you want to add me there. But for anyone who's looking at coming to Brazil, contact me. And this is what I've been doing full time for about 2 years now. I just never put it on my LinkedIn, but there I am for that. Now, the second thing that I want to say before we log off is somebody asked about why we left the United States, we can talk about that another day. I don't think that's right now. We don't have the time for it. But there is also something else that I'm going to have a talk about, and everyone here, including the people watching, are welcome to join. It was a comment that I got here. Shelley Lloyd is a longtime supporter of the team, and she said, "When are you going to speak on Trump winning?" I want to put my thoughts together on that.
When he wins again?
Well, here's the thing. She could be talking about last time. She could be talking about next time. I'll try to take the question in both directions. But the other issue is, I want to get into something that in a few different private groups I'm in, we talk about. I'm very open about, and I wrote an article about it, and I'll go back into it here one day about voting Trump and why people did it, why I did it, why other people did it. And I want to have the time to really go into that. Because whenever political discussion is made, we touched on a few things here. We talk about votes being taken for granted. We talk about how one thing we do have to talk about, and we have to be willing to admit, and this is a whole different kettle of fish. And I'm actually going to say this and just drop the grenade, and then I'm going to hit goodbye. What is this we keep talking about? Because the diaspora of brown people runs from haves to have-nots, just like any group of people. And we're not all voting the same way because we all have different financial and educational situations. So I'm going to click end broadcast. Y'all don't have to go anywhere. I'm just going to let this go before the comments start getting crazy.